Hi, my name's Louise and I'm one of the distance learning tutors here at First Intuition. In this session, we're going to be looking at task 6 from your audit unit. So this task is worth 15 marks, which gives you around 22 minutes to complete it. This task covers your audit opinions, so you need to be really well-rounded on those. You need to be able to explain them, write about them, and also pinpoint which opinion needs to be used and when. Also, risks and consequences, or rather than risks, are the controls that are in place substantial? And if they're not, what are the consequences? What are the risks? This is very, very much like a question from your internal controls unit, if you have done that unit already. So let's read the scenario. Well, actually, I would always recommend, let's read the task before we read the scenario so we know what we're looking for. So we've been asked to prepare extracts suitable for inclusion in a report to the management of Bambi Limited, which sets out the possible consequences of the deficiencies in these procedures and the recommendations you would make. Okay, so consequence and recommendation. We have been asked to prepare, doesn't give us a number, so just extractions. 10 marks and 2 parts to each. So I would go with 5. We probably need 5, right? So let's read the scenario. Whilst auditing Bambi Limited, a Windows manufacturer, you discovered the following procedures have been adopted by the stores department. The company receives approximately 4 deliveries a week. These are time-consuming to unpack, and so this is done later, many days later when work is quieter. This is definitely screaming out as one deficiency. Sometimes urgent items are taken from unchecked deliveries and issued straight to production. Definitely an issue, right? When deliveries are opened, Lenny, the warehouse manager, sends a memo to the purchasing department confirming goods are received. He then enters the quantity of each item onto the computerized inventory system. An inventory count takes place once a year to coincide with the financial year end. Well, deliveries are opened and Lenny sending a memo to the purchasing department and then enters the quantity of each item into the computer's system. Well, no checks are actually being done from the goods received note to the actual purchase order. So I would say here is number 3 for sure. What else can we see? Well, goods are being received. Many days later, they're being unpacked. So by the time they're actually being updated onto this inventory system, it's actually quite a while later, right? So that inventory system is not up to date. So it could be that they run out of goods, they could have too many goods and they're ordering too many materials, all different things could be going on there. So computerized inventory system. We'll just pop number 4 there. And finally, an inventory count takes place once a year. Once a year, well, that's definitely not good, is it? We'll discuss why. So let's just start at 1 and work through them. Now, again, blank piece of paper. You need to lay out your answer clearly. You need to make it really clear to the examiner what you're answering. Use headings, full sentences, and paragraphs. Okay. So we'll start off, we need a consequence, don't we? So consequence 1. Oh. So consequence 1. This is our goods not being unpacked until many days later. What's the consequence of this? Well, this increases the risk that faulty goods are not or cannot be returned for a refund. Generally, suppliers will have quite a short turnaround, you know. They want to know about faulty goods or missing goods within, say, 48 hours. And if it's many days before the goods are being unpacked, well, we're missing our chance, clients missing their chance of being able to get that refund. Then we need a recommendation. So, new heading, recommendation number 1. Very simple. All goods are checked for damage, soon after the delivery arrives. Or let's just try and make that a little bit more obvious. Soon after the delivery arrives. Okay, next, consequence 2. Again, keep going with these headings, make it really clear. Honestly, I'll just say, I know I repeat myself a lot, but I can't tell you how many tasks, how many mocks I mark where students do not follow this format, okay? That's why I repeat myself. So consequence 2, this was the urgent items taken from unchecked deliveries and issued straight into production. Well, what's our issue here? It might be that some of the produce, some of the products in these unchecked deliveries might be faulty. They might be poor quality. Also, if they're being issued to production, they might not ever actually get recorded as received because they've never really been entered onto the inventory system. When Lenny empties the boxes and records everything onto the inventory system, he's not recording things that aren't in the box, is he? So consequence 2, this was urgent items being taken out of unchecked deliveries increases the risk of poor quality items being used. Also, there is a risk that staff, Lenny, forgets to record these items at all. Okay, next one, consequence 3. Nope. Let's give a recommendation first, shall we? Proof and point is why we use the headings, because I realised I was about to write consequence twice. Very, very easily done. This is why we use the headings, because if I'd have gone back and looked, I would have gone, oh, I've got more consequences than I have recommendations. So recommendation number 2, only inventory booked into the system can be used in production. Quite obvious. Now, what this means is if production are waiting for certain items, hopefully that will hurry Lenny along to record these items into inventory. Kill two birds with one stone. Okay, next we've got consequence 3. I'm going to run out of space. So consequence 3, what was that? This was our no check of the goods received to the actual purchase order. So we don't know if we're receiving what we ordered and are we paying for too much. I'm going to just start here because I am going to run out of space. So no check of the goods received so loads of items could be missing, but we're not checking, so we don't know. And then we could get invoiced and pay for a load of things that we didn't even order or that we didn't receive even. Things that we ordered but didn't receive. So we need to check the goods received against the purchase order. Okay. So meaning items could be missing. Or items that weren't ordered so if we receive things that we didn't order, they could get booked onto the inventory system even though we didn't order them. So our recommendation number 3, again, not too awful. Let's spell recommendation correctly. I had a horrible feeling then that I'd spelt it wrong previously as well. And her recommendation number 3, very simple. Lenny should be checking the quantity of the goods against the purchase order. There we go. Running out of space. So let's get some spare paper. We've still got 2 more to go. And we did identify them, didn't we? And my mouse is playing silly buggers. It does that sometimes. So consequence number 4. Let's have a look. What was number 4? Number 4 then, this is goods being received many days before they go onto the inventory system. That means, so a customer could order some goods and we could say, oh, we don't have them. But actually we do have them, they're just not sitting on the inventory system. It might also be that the production team say, hey, we need 1,000 meters of wood. I don't know, 1,000 meters of wood today. So an urgent order's put in when actually there's 1,000 meters of wood sitting downstairs in the warehouse. Lenny just hasn't recorded it on the inventory system there yet. So that's our issue here, our consequence. So consequence 4 is goods being received many days before Lenny records them on the inventory system. Just to point out as well, with your written tasks, it's really important that you relate them to the scenario so that they don't look generic. So if they've given you a staff member's name, use that name. Show the examiner that you're directly answering the scenario that you've been given and you're not just giving generic answers that you've memorized from your book. Okay? So goods being received many days before Lenny records them on the inventory system. So the inventory system therefore will be out of date. Inventory records will not be up to date. This could cause loss of sales or expenses incurred ordering items that are not needed. Again, quite a simple recommendation, I think, quite an obvious one, especially if you've done an ACT. So recommendation 4, goods or Lenny should be updating the inventory system with goods received as soon as possible. So the system is up to date. Whew, lots of writing in this one. Okay, last one then. Consequence number 5. So much easier if you can type it. It really doesn't take that long in comparison to actually writing it with this annoying pen. So consequence number 5, this was the lack of regular inventory counts, only counting inventory once a year. What's the issue here? Well, if inventory is only counted once a year and you've got some staff that are constantly stealing inventory, it might take you a year to notice. Might take a year to realise that your staff, or it might not be your staff, it could be anybody, is actually stealing from you, right? So it needs to be done more than that. That's our consequence. That's our recommendation. So consequence number 5, lack of regular inventory counts. Inventory checks increases the risk of fraud, because it could be that the financial statements are showing that we own lots of assets that we don't. So our financial statements are incorrect, the misstatement of financial statements. It could be that we're being stolen from. So there's a couple of issues here. So fraud, theft, or misappropriation of assets, which actually is theft, but we'll put both. We'll put both. And the issue is this would result in a financial loss to the business. Recommendation. Number 5, regular inventory counts. Quarterly, should be conducted. To ensure the inventory count is accurate. And any discrepancies can be investigated. Cool. So if you've got a staff member who's a bit light-fingered, and he knows that you only do an inventory count once a year, and you've just done the inventory count, he knows that he can probably lift some items, and you're not going to notice for a year. And by the time you do notice, it's going to be too late to backtrack and find out who it was. If you do them more regularly, it's a bit more of a deterrent. Okay. Last little bit then. During the audit of Bambi Limited, you discover that a piece of machinery has not been depreciated in the year, resulting in the depreciation expense being understated by £8,750 in the year-end accounts. Okay. The materiality level set for the audit was £12,000. Identify whether or not the depreciation figure requires adjustment so that an unmodified audit opinion can be given. Materiality levels 12,000. We've understated by 8,750. No adjustment is required. My pen's just died. That's fine. No adjustment is required. It's below materiality level. Okay. So what would happen then is it's going to be recorded, right? And it will be added to all the other errors. It will be added to all those other missing things for the overall impact. So all of these errors, if there was lots of errors like this, they would all be added together and checked to see if the combined amount was material. Next, we've got an undisclosed loan to the director has not been included in the accounts for £5,000. Identify whether or not the financial statements require adjustment so that an unmodified audit opinion can be required. This time, the adjustment is required. Okay? It doesn't let me do it with my finger, it used to. This time, the adjustment is required. This is because this is a transaction with a director. Okay? So this isn't about the amount, this is about the qualitative factor here. If we are loaning directors, or if the client is loaning directors money, it doesn't matter how much it is, it's material. And lastly then, identify whether the following represents a duty or a right of the external auditor. This one, I think, throws students. Let's have a look. A duty is something that the auditor must do. They must do it in their work. A right is something that they can do. So a duty, if I have a duty to do something, I must do it. If I have the right to do something, then I can do it. So establish and report that adequate accounting records have been kept by the organisation. As an auditor, I have a duty to ensure that that's what I do. That is my job as an auditor. To access the company's books and records at any time. I have the right to do that as an auditor. I don't have a duty to do it, but I have the right to do it. And lastly, to ask the directors for information relating to their audit work. Again, we've discussed this a lot, haven't we? This is our inquiry. We have a right to do this. We can speak to directors. We can ask them questions. Don't have a duty to do it. We don't, it's not a must. It's a right. We have the right to do it. This is a good example of another one of those questions where you need to just take a second and make sure you read it properly, because I see students getting these the wrong way around and then kicking themselves for it. Okay, that's it. That's the end of task 6, and that's all of your sessions complete for audit. I'm not sure if it says it on this next page. If you are not a first intuition student and you would like our mock bank, so these questions are from our mock bank, and you would like our mock bank, you can purchase them from us. They are £15 per unit. You get the mock debrief videos. You get 2 online mock assessments. You also get our AAT sample assessment solutions. So it's a breakdown from a tutor of the AAT mocks. And it just says here, if you're passing these mocks and sample assessments, you should take confidence that you are ready for the real thing. Hopefully these sessions have helped you. I wish you all the best of luck with your exam.